Moving on to her community involvement, I'm going to call first on Roger Papineau from the Bridge Club.
Trying to follow everything that just transpired is a little more difficult now, but as Sharon was saying, it's about her community service, things that she dealt with in the community. My name is Roger Papineau, and I was asked by Irene's children if I would say a few words about Irene on behalf of the Windsor Social Duplicate Bridge Club. I first met Irene in the latter part of her life. Our lives crossed when we met at my mother's bridge club that my mother started in 1982, 40 years ago this year. According to my mother's recollection, my mother and she met at the Golden Age Club here in Tecumseh in the late 90s, early 2000s. After befriending Irene at the Golden Age, my mom asked Irene if she would join her at her own club. Irene agreed and soon became a regular attending weekly member. I retired in 1998, at which time I took a personal interest in helping my mother set up her club each week as she was getting older, and found it difficult to set up as well. After a couple of years of working and playing in the club myself, I began befriending some of the members. Irene was one of them. It may have been because I worked so closely with my mom, and from the family you can understand why Irene took such a liking to that. My mom used to run annual bridge trips all over Canada and the US. They were always 7-day trips. Irene went on every trip my mom offered. We traveled to many different major cities in Canada and the US. According to my mom, we took over 19 annual trips. By 2005, my mother couldn't physically handle the trips anymore. So I began taking over those trips. That's when my wife began coming along, and Irene met my wife for the first time on that first trip that I had organized. On these trips, Irene would take, and the family knows, dozens and dozens and dozens of pictures. And when we returned home, she would have them developed, and she would give many of them to my mom and me as mementos of our trip. It was around this time that Irene and I started having a more close relationship. She respected the fact that I was so attentive to my aging mother. Because she saw how I dealt with seniors, with my patients and personal interest in them, one day she asked me a very personal question. During one of our conversations, she learned that I was a member of the Foresters, an organization that did charitable work for families in need, but worked mainly dealing with disadvantaged children. Her question pertained to 2 of her grandchildren who had been born deaf. She asked if it was possible for the Foresters to do something for those grandchildren. I told her that I would do my best to address the matter to the executive branch. I made my presentation, and the organization agreed to help by having a fundraiser for her 2 grandchildren. We had a banquet fundraiser for 2 consecutive years at the Kubota Club and raised over $7,000 towards the cost of getting cochlear implants for those 2 grandchildren. She was forever grateful for what the organization had done. She never forgot that and always felt a closeness to me and my wife ever since, because my wife and I had a lot to do with the organization of those fundraisers. We had beautiful Christmas parties for the Bridge members, where she always took pictures, and of course, she would give those pictures to my mom and me as well. She always took a special interest in everything my mom did for seniors. She took a liking to my wife as well, once she had made her and took a special interest in her when she got very sick about 6 years ago. My wife almost passed away that year. It was a long and painful year, and Irene was always concerned about the two of us. She would constantly ask me how Kathy was and how I was doing. She even gave Kathy a bracelet that year while she was very sick. She was always giving gifts to people. In fact, 3 weeks ago, she had made several beaded change purses and gave one to my mother for no reason other than to please her. I believe she had a lot of respect for my mother, who is now 102, and just wanted to show her her appreciation for everything my mom had done for seniors over the years. At that same moment, she also informed the two of us that she had made over 100 of these change purses during the last 2 years of COVID, and that she had donated them all to frontline workers that she didn't even know. She just wanted to show her appreciation for all their selflessness. And just the week before she died, Irene brought to the Bridge Club 2 large albums full of photos that she had taken of Bridge Club events over the years. She asked me to make an announcement to the members that they could look at the pictures and take home any one that they wanted. When I asked her why she was getting rid of them, she told me that she was simply downsizing all the clutter in her house. Right. She just had too many pictures and didn't know what to do with them. I found it odd, but in retrospect, I wonder if she understood that time was coming to an end here. Not that she knew she was dying, but that she unknowingly knew that time was of the essence. Was this a premonition of her passing? God only knows. I would like to conclude by emphasizing Irene's gift of reaching out to others in their time of need. Perhaps it was her personal family tragedy during the Second World War that made her so aware of how human tragedy brings people together. I'm sure that the present situation in the Ukraine had brought to mind those tragic memories that Irene experienced so many decades ago. Irene was a very kind, considerate, giving, and compassionate person. That's not to say that she was without fault. However, her understanding of the nature of humankind made her a true Christian who envisioned a troubled world with people in need who required constant support. Until their needs were addressed, Irene could not sleep. That is why Irene was so involved in so many organizations and always volunteered for a leading role. Irene will definitely be missed, especially by those whose lives were touched by her kindness. She will always be remembered for her fortitude and her generosity. Her presence at the Bridge Club will definitely be missed. We salute her today for her caring nature and thank our Lord for granting us the pleasure of having known her and allowing us to have been part of her life. Goodbye for now, Irene. God be with you. May you cherish the joy and glory of his heavenly presence. May you rest in peace.